Welcome to Mattys Mental Health Podcast, aiming to spread awareness on mental health by sharing the real-life stories.
Hey, this is Frankie James, journalist with the Philadelphia Flyers here in Philadelphia, and you're listening to the Mattys Mental Health Podcast. Oh, yeah.
The man, the myth, the legend, the so many things, Mr. Frankie James. How you doing?
You know, people always ask me, is James like your last name, or how does this work? Like the two first, the two first name thing.
Could be
Um,
James Frankie.
Maybe I think I'm actually gonna contact my attorney, and I'm gonna change it to James Frankie. I'm doing good, man. It's been a long couple weeks, but the countdown was on since our last conversation, and I was super pumped up to be doing this with you, my friend. How are you?
Doing well. I'm doing well on this Wednesday afternoon, and thank you, by the way, for being here. Thank you for reaching out. Just we connected on Facebook, wanted to come on, and yeah, I just want to say thank you for wanting to come on and talk a little bit about your story.
Yeah, you don't have to thank me, man. I thank you. The conversation that we had initially, like the pre-screening, more or less. You got to make sure you have the right folks come on. You don't need any of those fakies out there. Um, but I knew this. I am still super excited to do this. I couldn't wait to do this. What you're doing is incredible. You got to tell me a little bit about your story. It's a remarkable one. And even before we had jumped on live here, man, and started recording, that you are the Canadian Joe Rogan. You are doing it the right way. And I've been doing podcasting for 5 years, and you put me to shame. Not to mention, you're way better looking than I am. I mean, I don't know why you're doing just audio.
It's up to debate, art is to the eye of the beholder, as they say.
I as in the beer holder is what they say.
Well, thank you for saying all that stuff. I mean, just a
man,
guy
sure.
in a little island talking about mental health. That's my thing.
It's so important because especially for males, man, and there's a range where suicide are high with males.
Yeah.
And nobody will ever be able to say, well, why is that? But the thought comes, and when you think about it, because we have to be the macho ones, we have to be the tough guys. Emotions, feelings, they don't exist. Now, I come from a family. I'm one of 8, 7 sisters. Yes, I still have 7 sisters. I recently lost one of my younger ones about 2 weeks ago. We still are the bunch of 8, and I'm the only boy, man. Listen, looking at you right in your eyes right now, I am more of a woman than my sisters are. Okay, I am a sensitive gentleman, and I always wear my emotions on. Leave them out there. And I'm just grateful for that because of the fact that I don't know. I'm pretty sure we can all hear that, so we're just gonna get rid of that real quick. We'll have to edit that bad boy out.
Live call coming in. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, the life of law, the life of a journalist. Oh, terribly sorry about that. But
Okay,
back to what I was saying. I lay it all out there, and I'm almost grateful for being raised by all women. My mom was a single mom. Never really a male role model in my life. I became one of the gals. Tough on the outside, but sensitive on the inside. I guess I'm like one of those big teddy bear, people that they say about. But another reason why I went to an all boys high school too, because I needed to meet a guy. I mean, it got serious. But mental health is so important, and I was diagnosed with mental illness. I'm diagnosed with anxiety, with ADHD, and more recently manic depression. About 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, came with everything that I had went through, and which of course I'll dive into momentarily. But mental health is mental awareness, the whole aspect of it. It's so important because that feeling of giving up, and the feeling of not knowing your worth, and more personally, the feeling, would anybody miss you if you were gone? And those were a lot of the thoughts that I had, when I was really down and depressed. Like, would anybody even miss me? And it's like, when you're in that mindset and you're crawling out of your skin, it's almost really tough to come back from. So mental health is super important, and that's why I applaud you for doing what you're doing, because there could be never be enough podcasts, or conversations, TED talks, anything, to cover this topic.
Well, yeah, again, thank you so much for coming on and wanting to share, um, what you've been through and just some of the things that you just shared a bit there. Um, but yeah, I think, to your point with men, I think, you know, you mentioned like being hard on the outside or tough on the outside, soft in the middle. I think, I think that's probably true. And I'll go as far as say I know that's true for like all men. Not soft in the middle in terms of like that turns us off. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like we think of soft to being like fucking, you make excuses and you don't do the things you have to do or
just
whatever.
having feeling, like
Yeah.
emotion, sensitivity, caring. Like, oh, no, I don't care about that girl. You know what I mean? I'm over her. I'm on to the next. But like realistically, you sit there and you think about those kind of things, and you almost put yourself in their shoes. It's like, man, I really did that girl wrong, and I went through that. Like I when people get into therapy, and I'm 33, I've been in therapy since I was 10. Definitely spent a few shekels on therapy in my day. um, you know, we've tried to find the root, like where is a lot of these issues coming from? Of course, accountability and self sabotage is something I've dealt with for a long time as well. You try to find the root of where all it comes from, and I was grateful enough to really find where a lot of it came from. And ironically, being raised by women, it came from the relationship I always wanted with my mom. Um, my dad was in and out of my life. He eventually abandoned me and my older sister for about 3, 4 years. Recently came back. We had a long conversation. Obviously, wasn't getting off the hook that easy. We were fucking talking. Um, but that relationship's being repaired. But like a lot of the things I do, with being in law and sports media and charity and volunteer work, like a lot of it I do because it does make me happy, but it's like I want that acknowledgement, that recognition that, hey, son, I'm really proud of you from my mom and really anyone in my family. And I've never gotten it. So it's like, well, are you doing all these things because you want to do them, or you do them for the recognition of your family? And I actually sit there and I think about it. I'm like, I love doing it. Don't get me wrong. I'm always going to do it. But am I doing it? Am I doing a good thing for the wrong reasons? It's like the quote, the movie A Bronx Tale. Little Calogero did a good thing for a bad man. You know what I mean? And it kind of like relates to that. But I'm grateful to be able to find the root. I don't have a great relationship with a lot of my family members. Like I have a lot of trust issues, with a lot of things I've been through. I came to them at a very sensitive time in my life about over a year and a half ago. I got done a bigger charity event. I was like, okay, I'm gonna hold an intervention. I'm gonna hold an intervention with my family because they had just no idea what I was up to, like for 3 months. And I sat them down, the important ones that I wanted to be there. And I told them everything that was going on. I was like, I've been dealing with a lot of bad depression, a lot of mental health issues. It essentially started relating to some drug use. I was already good. I hadn't done anything like 3 months, so I was all right. There was no detox need or anything like that. It was related to the coping with the mental illness. Since that day, I kid you not, Matty Beck, since that day, they have looked at me like nothing like in a positive way whatsoever. It's so reflected on like that I did drugs at one point in my life, not any of the good things that I've been able to accomplish. People do dumb shit. Listen, I was a high school dropout my senior year. I was about to be done in 3 weeks. I dropped out of high school. Um, and the only reason why I got my high school diploma some years later was because I thought I was going to have a kid. And this was about 10 years ago. And got my high school diploma from home, did very well. And went enrolled into community college, was about to be done my associates, and a year after the baby was born, DNA test result, the baby wasn't mine. And that could have just totally shut me down 10 years ago, man. Like totally shut me down. And I had no support from my family with that either until they, of course, afterwards when they saw the baby. But no, I kept going, bachelor's, master's, junior doctorates, took the LSATs, and eventually became an attorney. But it's crazy because there's two things I am proud of: getting my high school diploma and my LSAT score are the two main things I am proud of. And I don't really say that often because it's hard to feel that when your family doesn't feel it for you. So it's like, how can anybody love me if my family doesn't? No, they love you. Well, they haven't really shown that too often. But I wanted to accomplish those things. One, because I want to take care of my child. Eventually, wasn't going to be the case, but I wanted to make my family proud, and that I obviously didn't get that. So very distant with like a lot of my family now. I have a couple close ones that I talk to, but yeah, man, going back to the initial root of the conversation, mental health is a real thing. Like people, your audience is listening to a story of I have been through a lot, just like we all have. But I'm just a blue collar guy from Philadelphia, man. I don't forget where I came from. I'm always available to help people because I know what that's like, not to have that guidance, not to have like, you're trying to accomplish something, whether it's a business, anything, a podcast. It's like, oh, I'm stuck. I got a little bit of a fork in the road here. I'm stuck. Well, guess what? Let's dissect it. Let's break it down and let's keep you moving. And it's been successful. Except for yours, because your podcast is just great A, so I don't even need to help you with yours.
Curious, in terms of like, you know, with what you've dealt with your family, um, not feeling like you've got like the gratification or um maybe love. I don't know if that's the word you would use, but when did you realize that, or and maybe even after you did, like, did you see it back in your life?
So when did I realize the root, like the relationship with my mom? Okay, so even prior to, I took 3 months, 3 months even before this incident. I was living in Morristown, New Jersey, and I was with my ex fiance, and I was back in therapy, and a lot was being revisited. My mom never come to any one of my hockey games, but like one. Um, Even dumb shit like, she didn't help me pay for my equipment. My best friend, God rest his soul, is responsible for like my skates that I had. Like he gave me an extra pair. Um, Helped me get a jersey, just so that I could play hockey. Just so that I could play hockey. He gave me like I still have the equipment. I still use the equipment today. He died a couple years ago. We just went different paths, sadly. But he is the reason why I got to play Father Judge hockey. He is the reason why I made an 18-year career. Um, as silly as it sounds, and maybe even a little petty, but I look back on those things, and it's like that's not. It's like what your like parents are supposed to do. Like, where was the support? My mom was constantly, a lot of lies. Like, would have us lie for her. Um, she's been through a lot. Was able to come to understanding a lot of the things that she's been through. So I do sympathize and I do understand. Um, but it came to a point where I had to make a decision. And I talked to my older sister about this. She was the only one I was in contact with. It was like, do I accept my mom for who she is? Be very cautious what you tell her, but she's a liar and she can't be trusted. Or do I just totally cut her off and just get the negativity out? And I had to make a decision. And I made the decision to keep her in my life because I love her. A only son and a mother. Like that was the first person I wanted to marry. Like, I mean, who hasn't said that to their mom when they're like, when they're younger? Um, but that relationship never grew to what I always wanted it to be, and maybe whatever she wanted it to be. I always thought like I could do something to make her proud, but like she just never was able to say it. I don't know why, but not I'm always a guy that needed to, sadly, needed to hear that acknowledgement. I don't like, even with my relationships, I don't need money, cars, jewelry, all that bullshit. Words of affirmation, like, hey, really good job. Small little goals, like achievements, like, yeah, hey babe, thanks for doing all the laundry. Really appreciate it. That's gonna make me want to do it more. And if I don't hear those things, man, it's like it gets to me. It gets to me. It makes me feel very insecure, um, very insecure. Like people think like, oh, you're insecure. I mean, for what? Like I don't find myself. I'm not insecure about like my physical look. I'm insecure on the inside because I want everybody to be proud of me. I want everybody to like me. To where it almost looks like attention seeking also has caused issues in my relationships. Um, but to answer your question, that was a big part of it. That was like a breakthrough that I had. I was like my mom, and then I realized it again later on, and I still continue to be reminded of it. Like this is the root. And when I was able to move past that, I was able to focus on other things in therapy that now reflected me. I had a huge ego problem. I was like John Mayer times two. If everybody remembers when John Mayer came in, he had a huge ego problem, very bad narcissist. And I still have like narcissistic things about me, like that I don't know it's happening or I'm unaware of it happening, but I went through therapy to kind of fix it and definitely to fix the ego problem. Like I don't think I'm better than anybody. I never really thought that I was better than anybody, but big head does happen sometimes. I try to now take it more or less like, hey, I can really help you with this. I'm good at this. Instead of saying, oh, dude, I'm the best at this, man. But whatever. I try to take it more into a positive thing now. But to answer your question, yeah, that's kind of when I realized that we got some mama issues.
You know, I was talking to a counselor next week, and I imagine by the time this comes out, the episode will be out. But she says something that really stuck with me. Um, she kind of focuses on self-esteem, and she was talking about how it usually happens somewhere in childhood or teens, or it can be like a series of things that happens. And um, we got a slide camera there.
It's all good. It's all good. He's on the move.
But she was saying like it affects you in a certain way, and then you just keep repeating these patterns over and over again in your life. And I just think it's really interesting. Like, it's obviously very hard to, and it must be very hard, must have been very hard for you to go through that. Um, I just think it's interesting that when you do realize what it is, then you look back and it's like, oh, there's like
The
all of these
puzzle.
patterns. It's
The
like
puzzle.
it comes out in every way.
Yeah, you're essentially putting the puzzle pieces together, and that's kind of actually really interesting what the counselor had said about like the kind of like the routine, the repetitiveness is because I see that all the time with a lot of things in my relationships. Like the same, I almost go into a relationship already knowing it's going to fail because of of maybe of how I am or just commitment, fear of commitment. Um, I've also gotten into a lot of relationships where I almost look for them to like be motherly.
Mm.
Um, and ain't no kink shit or anything like that. Like, no, oh, mama, come here. Oh, none of that. It's more or less like to take care of me. I'm just like supportive. And like, obviously there's a team aspect of it, but, if you get what I'm saying, and I'm sure you and your audience do, you know, and nothing to do with age, just that motherly love kind of. And it's affected my relationships tremendously because they essentially will say, like, I don't want to take care of like you're a grown man. And I'm like, oh, no, I am, I know. But it's something I always wanted. And I'm not putting blame necessarily on my mom. Like she's went through a lot. She never got it, So it might sound silly or cliche, but what you don't know, you don't know. I never really seen a lot of healthy relationships in my day. Um, a lot of my stepdads were alcoholics and made a lot of dumb decisions. Us as kids heard a lot of things that we shouldn't have heard as kids, and me being the only boy, like it puts me in a certain situation. My stepfather currently, he obviously took a change of life realistically. It's almost like he was very verbally abusive, very never physically, very verbally abusive to us, and one of the reasons why I was in therapy at 10. When he got diagnosed with cancer, he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in the mouth. Never smoked. Me and my older sister Nina, who he was like kind of rough with, verbally, we got the news and we called each other. I was living in Morristown. We called each other. And I was like, "Hey, did you hear about Mike?" And she was like, "Yeah." And we sat there and we paused. And I can still say this today. We were like, do you feel is it bad that we don't really feel bad? Is it bad that we really don't feel too bad about it? Essentially, I'll still say it today. And obviously, I'll go into like a little bit more positive side of it. Like God took His voice. God took His voice. God took His ability to scream and yell and bitch and do all that stuff. And I truly believe that. Now, with all that being said, he is a totally different man. Obviously, the booze are out of his life. He's incredible. I've gotten very close, much more closer with him. Um, he always did have my back for sure. It was tough around the edges, blue collar guy, hard worker, go to work, go to work. The bad alcoholic, man. Money was his thing. Like if he paid for everything, so that's all that fucking mattered. But that's not really all that mattered. He did teach me a lot, taught me a lot of things what to do, what not to do. So I am appreciative of him. But truth be told, I love him to pieces. But he was a real bastard. But I love him.
You must have, and it's easy to see now, I think, a tremendous amount of resilience.
It's a great word. It's a great word, actually. Yeah, with a lot, yeah, for sure. I never really even thought about it, believe it or not. It's not a word that typically just jumps out at you. If you could give me a synonym for resilience, what would you say? What's the first one that comes to mind? I know, obviously, I know what the word means, but I want to hear it. Like, what would you say?
You have to explain to me what synonym means first.
So similar,
Okay.
a similar
Similar
word
word.
for resilience. What would you pick?
If it was one word, maybe well, simplistically, like strength,
Yeah,
right?
perfect. Yeah, and it's crazy because I mean, and I don't even go with physical strength. This is all mental strength. You could be as big as you want, but when you're mentally not there, it doesn't. Nothing matters.
Yeah.
I was not always like that at all. And I'll bring it back as I kind of mentioned in the earlier part of our journey here, 2 years ago when I was at the lowest point of my life. Essentially, I, me, and my ex fiance, we just split up. I left, and I went into a situation, not a situation. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. I was moved in with a woman. Not the greatest situation, but she did her best, and that was but it ended up not being very good. And I'll dive more into it. My stepdad got re-diagnosed with cancer. Job wasn't going too well. Obviously, I was distracted with new life and starting over. I did miss my family. My biological father walked out on me and my sister. This all happened within 3 weeks. There's only so much that a human being can take, and I felt stuck. I felt alone, and I totally had shut down. I had totally shut down. I stopped talking to my life coach, and I almost went off the radar. Now my family's in Philly. I'm still in Jersey. And then the girl I was with got pregnant. This one I knew was mine. Um, I was, and off like the top of my career, I was like, we're going to do this. I'm not ready for a relationship. I mean, shit, it's only been 2 months. I mean, people are like, "Ooh, that's pretty quick." I knew I wouldn't second guess it for a second. Um, and decisions were made, and she wanted to be with me, and I just wasn't ready for that. And she ended up having an abortion. So twice that was that essentially was like taken from me. And I had a say in it, absolutely. And I reflect back on it, and it really affects her as well. Now we have now fallen into a deep depression, and I remember coming home to Philly to work. My birthday, April 30th. I had just turned 32, so not this past April, the following. And I'm just starting to get my thoughts, and I'm having like an episode. Like I just feel really depressed, really down. Like what the fuck is going on? I get back, I leave Philly. A birthday party was ready to rock and roll at the local pub. Family was going to be there. Fucking clowns, the whole nine. Whatever else was going to be there, who knows? You might have been there, Manny. Who knows, brother?
I was waiting for you.
Hey, you're
Thanks.
waiting for me. Hey, I'm Manny Mental Health. I don't know you. So I get back to Jersey, and I go right in the bathroom, and I sit there and I'm thinking, and I had a suicide attempt. I had a suicide attempt on my birthday, and I've never told anybody about this, but if I'm actually going to talk about it. This is probably one of the first times. So, reader beware, you're in for a scare. A little disclaimer. Not super detailed, but I will go into it. And this is the first time I've done this, Matty Burke. So thanks for allowing me to do it. I sat there, up against the door, and I just had those thoughts, like we talked about earlier, like, would anybody miss me? Like, look at the mistakes I've made. I'm ruining everything. I just totally, totally down. And I took a belt and it went around my neck, and I put it on the outside of the door, slammed it, and just went forward, and started to black out, and boom, something happened. I think I farted. Something happened, and I came back and took it off and cried and went back into therapy immediately and told what happened, and things got better, things got better. And then they started coming back again. When you think you're okay, sometimes they come back. You got to be ready for it, and I wasn't ready for it. And then that's when I had the nervous breakdown. Had to quit my job. Mentally couldn't do my job anymore. I took about 3-4 months and did absolutely nothing. And I was already doing photography with the NHL at this time, and podcasting. This is more recently. I did nothing. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, man, I got all this time on my hands. Like, what do I do? So I ended up starting to shoot more, just walk around shooting photos. Don't call us to shoot photos. And I was setting everything up with insurance to go inpatient to a mental facility. And with everything with the insurance, I had to wait until January. This was November. When the breakdown happened, and I went into like an IOP, intense outpatient therapy 3 times a week, 2 hours a sesh, up until January, where the determination was going to be made, and lots of improvement. And I had an incredible counselor, and I'll tell you a little story about that momentarily. And the doctors were able to say, like, I think he's going to be okay. Stick with this. You're going to be all right. Kept going, therapy, all that. Here I am. Here I am today. But a small little story. My guidance counselor, who I mentioned, that was my therapist then. When I was a freshman at Father Judge High School, I had a suicide attempt, and my school counselor, freshman counselor from Cora, quick plug for them, of course, they're lifesavers. I'm gonna plug my main man, Mr. Dan Rogan. He was my guidance counselor, and he saved my life. He was my therapist all those years later.
Wow.
So the connection was already there, and all that, still things happen here and there. Keep the mindset clear, stay productive. And I just try to do the best I can. But resilience is an incredible word, because now, thinking back, and you just heard a massive part of this journey. Never judge a book by its cover, ladies and gents. And here we are. I get to have this wonderful conversation with you, Matty Burke, and spread awareness. And I didn't even get to mention, some of the things I do. I do a lot of charity for mental health. I've been volunteering for the suicide hotline for 2 years. And it's crazy because people always wonder, who are those people on the line? I always wonder about that. What do they do? Like, who are they? Are they like, old ladies that are smoking Pall Malls behind the thing? You know what I mean? No, there are people, all different types of people. And everybody is getting a glimpse of one of them. Frankie James, 33 years old, Fort Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I have been a suicide crisis counselor for the hotline for the last 2.5 years. It is the most rewarding thing I've ever been able to do. Sadly, the phone sex thing denied me, so I had to get into something different. But it's the most rewarding thing I've ever been able to do. I share my stories, and that's kind of like my approach. You can't just go in on the phone and be like, oh, what's wrong with you? I did a TED talk one time on this app, Clubhouse app. It's all audio. Nobody knows anything about you. Little bio. And the topic was trust. And I immediately reflected back to the hotline, because, when they call and I answer, they had known nothing about you. Nothing. How can this person trust you? They are literally forced. Like, how can you trust somebody when you don't know nothing about them but the sound of their voice? That's it. No sights. You have no idea what this person looks like. How do you do it? How can you trust somebody? Sometimes you're forced. Sometimes your life is on the line where you have to trust them. And that's kind of the name of the game. I go in there with the approach of telling them a little bit about what I've been through. So now we become relatable. Then I start even having them dissect some of my issues to where they may open up a little bit and have a little conversation. Oh yeah, I know what that's like. And we continuously talking about me. Now, nothing on, of course, like a narcissistic take the spotlight on me. I am building their trust. We are trusting each other. They are helping me. And they really are. And now we go into talk to me a little bit about some of the things that you mentioned that were relatable. And now they go into it with me. I just literally, that's my approach. Check the Excel sheet, and statistics are looking good. I've had incredible success. People obviously are, like I said, it goes back to the initial conversation, the topic. Mental health is real. I had somebody, a regular, that's funny, I kind of call them that. One of my regs, 7 months I had this person for, incredible person, great soul, and sadly they had passed, with obviously the way that we would expect, but the way that we kind of, if it was going to happen, saddened, heartbroken. But the biggest mistake you can ever make, and I'm sure you could probably say right now, is you can't have guilt. And that comes with like resilience. Like, I never have guilt because I'm not, I'm honored and fortunate and even lucky to be able to be put in a position to even be able to help anybody. I have a lot of my own issues. I have people that always get in my ear sometimes, like, you need to deal with your own problems first before you go off and help people. How many times have we heard that? Even you, Matty Burke. I mean, you have a podcast doing what you're doing, and in no way are we 100% right in our own minds, especially with the things that we have been through. Well, you need to focus on yourself. You know what? You want to know my way of focusing on myself is by doing something like this. I'm learning about other people. I'm finding myself relatable to them. This isn't like a job. And that's one reason why I never went into the field as a career, because I take more pride into it because I'm not being compensated. I always thought about that. It's a big thing. You take more pride in the things you're not compensated for. That's why I love doing podcasts right now, because
Yeah.
Thanks for having me say that too, and talk a little bit about those really personal things. They were the first time I've ever done that before.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for having me.
I think when you volunteer your time, um, and you choose to help somebody, and it's a real connection, like a real genuine connection to somebody, I think that brings fulfillment, which we think about like, if it's transactional, maybe that doesn't always get to that place. Maybe it does if it's something to do with business or something like that. But if you're volunteering your time and you're choosing to do it, I think it just takes that transaction element out of it completely.
Because essentially there is no transaction. Time, everybody has their own time. Like we get to decide, and realistically people could say, and I said it myself, I'm so busy, I don't have the time, I don't have the time, I don't have the time. I'm just so scattered. Well, guess what? You do have the time. You want to know why you have the time? Because it's your time. Put put the work in. Decide what you want to give your time to. Whether it be 10 hours at the bar, slamming them down, watching Golden Girls, okay? Whether it be wanting to volunteer to help somebody, whether it be wanting to sit there and just do nothing. It's your time. You are in full control of your time, unless you're behind bars, okay? That's realistically the only time where the time ain't yours. Of course, 8:30 to 5:30, you get your job. It's still your time, but you are being paid for your time. You're being compensated. So that is an obligation to give them your time. But other than that, you decide what you want to do with your time. And that's the beautiful thing about it. I should take some of my own advice. I'm going to have to write that down, because
Yeah, just like as you're saying it, writing it down, like, yeah, that's good, that's good.
yeah, I have to go. I have to put that in a book.
So I guess just going back to some of the stuff you shared. I mean, like, you talk about that mindset of feeling
Growing in
like
your skin.
everyone would be better off without you. I've heard that a lot, and
Yeah.
um, I don't know. There's a time maybe I felt it, but could you talk about like that mindset, or even like, you mentioned like the attempt, and something changed, and then you came back. I'm curious, like, for maybe someone that.
I'll tell you exactly what it was. You ready for this?
Mm,
I'll dive in. I don't mean to cut you off. Your first part of your question, that feeling of would anybody miss me? And that comes a lot with the attention wanted from family and like the proud, like, well, you guys weren't proud of me when I was here, like, essentially celebration of life when they're gone. Is that when you guys are gonna like consider anything I've ever done? Might even be a little selfish to think like you're going to take yourself out for that reason. When you have that mindset and you start getting those thoughts of, and once again, back to the topic of conversation, mental health is a real thing, mental illness is a real thing, and that's what I suffer from. And nobody would ever even think that if I didn't tell them, because what do they see? They see legal field, they see sports media, they see a big fucking nose, Gonzo. Oh, he's an actor. That's Gonzo. That's Elf, guys. That's Elf over there. But then they hear the journey, the story of how it got there, and everything I went through, and it's like, oh wow, man, I would have never have thought that. Yeah, you're absolutely right, because you judge the book by its cover, man. You got to hear the story first. I heard an interesting thing today from a coach. We were talking, and it says like life is a book. Okay, now every with that book, there's sentences, chapters, paragraphs, words, everything about it, titles. Everybody that comes into your life is a part of that. One being a title, one being a paragraph, one being a chapter. Maybe spend a lot of time with that one, you know, person, and it became a chapter. And then that's all she said. And I sat there and thought about it, and I was like, realistically, like everything happens for a reason. Everybody comes into your life for a reason. Like everything I went through, I would not change a fucking thing. I would not change one thing, because I would not be what Matty Berg, I would not be here with you, right now, my friend, because who knows what we would be doing. Sometimes it takes tragedy. Sometimes it takes a huge accomplishment for the mind to open and be like, hey, I want to do something a little differently. I'm going to go take the road more traveled, more or less, and learn along the way. And that's exactly what we did. We had to, put the big boy pants on and learn along the way, because us as men, once again, we're not shown, oh, it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be vulnerable. Oh, come here, give me a hug. I mean, at least in my life, that just wasn't a thing. And then as a male perspective, that definitely wasn't a thing. I mean, get out there and kick his ass, son. Oh, all right. Well, I'll do the best I can. Um, why am I fighting again? Like who knows? But that feeling, going back to answer your question of like that was like the big thing. Like, would anybody miss me? Like I said, celebration of life. Like if I was gone, then I would finally get the acknowledgement that I always wanted.
um,
I'm gonna go into the second part of your question, but go ahead.
it's interesting. It can be like, it can almost be like, and it might sound bad to, but it can be like, I'll show them. And it's like, it's not from a place
Exactly.
of like, that's why I'm doing it. I'm in a horrible place, but it's like, I'll show them.
Oh man, you couldn't have said that any better, Matty Berg, and that's exactly what it is. I'll show them. I've never used those words with that, but that would sum it up 100%. Shitty situation, but perfectly said. Perfectly said. You couldn't have said that any better. You're right. I'll show them. I'll end it, and then they'll see what they could have appreciated. That's
Mm,
hurt, man. That's
mm,
hurt and pain.
mm,
And people can sit there and think like, I'll snap out of it. Like, yeah, that can happen. Yeah, sure, shit, yeah, man, that can happen. Um, but when it's like all you think about, like you make these life decisions revolving around the acceptance of your fam, it's like and then you don't get it, and it just buries and buries and buries and buries and buries, and you go through tragic times. Like when I was 15 and I had my suicide attempt, there was no, "Oh, are you gonna be okay?" It was like, "I can't deal with this. You get it together. I'm gonna 302 you." And for those that don't understand what the 302 term means, it's a it's essentially like a 911 call, like 911, 302. 302 is where they call the cops and they say, "Hey, my son, daughter is trying to kill themselves," and they come and they take you right to a mental institution. That's what the term 302 means. They come and get you and take you away immediately. My sister has been 302'd. I have not been. I just been threatened with it. This was when I was like 15 years old, man. Freshman in high school. That was the comforting talk I got when I was literally slicing my arms open. Cutter, more or less, I believe what they call it. So right there off the bat, like once again, the resilience in the journey, like it was tough. It really was. And anybody that's listening right now, if you maybe even feel like, hey, I relate, I will 100% give my contact info to Matty Burke, and you can personally reach out to me on my cell phone, my personal cell phone. I don't care what time it is. I'm always available, and I have to thank Matty Burke for even giving me the opportunity to be able to do that on his podcast. But the second part of your question, it's pretty wild. You ever hear the term, "I'm not afraid of no ghost," right? Ghostbusters. So when I was in the act of doing what I did, my mom's second husband, God rest his soul, my sister Allison's father, he was a buzzer, drank a little bit, a lot of it, but it was always really good to me. My first fishing trip, first fish call, first camping trip, he did a lot of that stuff with me. I heard his voice. And that's what kind of brought me back. I told one person that, my sister Allison. He passed away a couple years ago. And he was dead for some time before we found him. That was tough. And another grievance process that we didn't get to do for until like 4 or 5 months afterwards. I didn't take a day off of work either. I heard his voice and it brought me back. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I kind of came back out of it, like I said. Yeah, I heard my stepfather's voice.
So
Probably was saying, "Frank, come on, you pussy."
kind of a beautiful thing, a terrible situation.
Yeah, of all people, like I didn't expect it. I just heard it. I heard it. I heard his voice. I don't even know what it was. I don't even know if it was words. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you what was said, but I know the voice I heard, and I came back and got up, made calls, and I eventually made my way back to Philadelphia about a month and a half later. Told the person I was there with, I was like, "If I don't leave, I am going to not make it." And I left. And I remember that first night I came back to Philly, my mom was looking at me like, "Frank, you just don't look right. You look like you're crawling out of your skin." I was like, "Mom," and this is before I told anybody. Nobody knew about anything. Nobody knew about the temp. Nobody knew about anything. My sister Nina was the first person I told, because she eventually was a huge part of all that in a positive way. And I'll get into that momentarily. I was like, "Mom, I had a really long, really long couple months. I just got to settle in." And I eventually settled in. I didn't go to sleep that night. I just unfolded my clothes and just kind of just reflected. And then eventually, I didn't even sleep that night. But back to what I was saying about my sister, my life coach, who I mentioned, hadn't heard from me. So I guess I stopped talking to him, just kind of disappeared. He got worried and he called my sister Nina. We all knew each other. He was a good friend, but he was also an incredible man. He was a huge role model, definitely one of the role models. Called my sister Nina and said, "Have you talked to your brother?" "No, I'm worried about him." "Okay, I'll call him." Nina calls me at the store. I'm in Lowe's. "Yeah, what, Nina? What? Tim's really worried about you." I was like, "Okay, I'll call you when I'm done and we'll talk." It was the first time I talked about it. Now, there's 2 phone calls essentially because it saved my life all the way back around. It was the first time I was open. I talked about it, and I told her what happened. And I thank her every now and then, and I thank Tim every now and then. for saving my life. The attempt had already happened, but I was able to be open and talk about it, um, which essentially is part of like step one to like recovery, more or less.
I think that's a big lesson for um like for anyone out there and just in general, like if you're thinking about reaching out to someone. I mean, that's you just never know, and you
You have
would
no
know
idea.
this. You would know this like doing in your life and doing those calls. Like you never know how much, even if it's a small thing, just like calling your brother, being like, "Are you okay?" And that leads to a conversation. But like you never know how much that can change someone's day or life by just reaching out.
It's so true. Like every time I go to Wawa, it's a little store. I don't know what your Wawa is considered up in your neck of the woods, my friend. But like a little convenience store, they got all types of goodies in there and shit. And they have their name tags with the name on it. I go right up to them, say for example, Gus. Hey Gus, how you doing? What's going on, man? Like first name, they're like, I have my name tag. I'm like, I always go by first name, and I ask them how they're doing. Everyone. If I'm on a run, I see somebody on the street. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? Um, everyone, like everyone, it doesn't matter who it is because I could have been the only contact that person may have had with somebody. They
Yeah.
might take that route every day just to get that high, and they're always going to get it. I'm a very like outgoing, sociable person, so obviously your audience probably knows now that I love to talk as well. Um, but I always do something like that. I think about that shit, man. Like I remember one time I was getting some seafood from the store. The guy was behind the counter, was having a bad day. I'm like, yo, man, listen, you're almost done your shift. Get home, relax, new day. Just power through, man. It's gonna be all right. I promise you. That don't cost me anything to do that. Lobster tails cost me a few fucking dollars. I would have thought it would have knocked off a few bucks for the old tip, but but yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask how somebody's day's doing. You know what I mean? Not that it's oh, you got to ask people how their day's doing. No, you don't have to do it. One thing you do have to do is you have to hold the door open if somebody's coming by. Hold the fucking door open for the person to walk by. That's like a rule.
Yeah.
Eddie
Yeah.
Burke, would you agree?
I agree. Yeah.
Thank
100%.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. We're very polite up here in Canada, and that's a big
Nova Scotia.
it's a big no no. Prince Edward Island, where we are, that's a big no no. Everybody opens doors and shit.
Yeah, yeah, I'm familiar with your town. Being a big hockey guy, I told you we were going to end up diving into it, because then it essentially leads to a little bit of more of the mental issues that I have with hockey. Sidney Crosby, number 87, the savior of the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's not far from your town, is he?
No, not too far. Not too far. I think he actually did like summer hockey camps here in Prince Edward Island. This is a big thing.
One of the best, man. One of the best. I played the game a long time, and being in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh is one of the big rivals. I hate Pittsburgh, hate Crosby. I never hated players because obviously I played the game, so why would I hate talent? People shit on him so much. I look at him like I am watching one of the greatest hockey players play ever, and it's incredible. He is an incredible player. He's an incredible talent, and you're hearing it first. A journalist from Philadelphia with Philadelphia Flyers, FlyerInsider.com. Sidney Crosby is an incredible player, and I wouldn't mind even being his friend.
Breaking news. Look,
Breaking
I'm gonna
news.
clip this and send it to the fucking Flyers.
You know what? That's quite funny. Frank, we have to talk to you about something. You admitted to liking Sidney Crosby. Like, yeah, well, he's a good player. Oh, you're fired. Oh, all right, sounds good. Go back to law.
So you mentioned hockey earlier. Hockey was a big part of your life.
He was 18 years of my life. And ironically, people, unlike Crosby started when he was fresh out the womb. I started actually playing ice hockey when I was a freshman in high school. I go back to that story about my good friend Leo who gave me the equipment. I played ice hockey my freshman year. A little wobbly on the skates. I played defense. I didn't have the hips for it, man. They would just fly right by me. I didn't have the hips. So I transitioned to right wing, played forward. I spent 17 years playing forward. Took a hit and a little bump, a little head bump against the glass. Definitely got the bell rung a little bit. First concussion, nothing major. I was out for probably about 3 games, and then I got a second one. I think I got tripped up and hit my head and slid and actually bruised my collarbone. Um, Now there's two hits. Now there's two little bell rung, and then the third. Done judge hockey.
Just all in the same season, by the way, or is this like spread out?
No, sorry, it was spread out. Yeah, I'm sorry. So freshman year I got one. My junior year I got one, and then I made it to juniors, junior B level. Very competitive. I got to play against some incredible people, a couple NHLers. Um, they're doing much better than I am. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm living life. But I could compare it to, for all of our hockey fans out there, Philadelphia Flyers versus Buffalo Sabres. Passes met from RJ Umberger. Um, Looks down, gets the puck. Brian Campbell comes across and boom, clocks him. RJ hits his head on the ice and he has no idea where he is. And actually, if, like you'll have to, I'll send you a link because you might be actually be able to like increment it into your podcast, like as I'm talking about it, so they can actually see the hit. It's the same exact hit that I took. Yeah, I can show you that. It's the same exact hit that I took. I was out 3 years. 3 years. I had to get taught how to tie my shoes again, and that's when like I don't want to say when like a lot of the mental issues started taking place, but I never thought I was gonna play hockey again. I
Yeah.
was like, not that I want to go pro, but I was playing a pretty fucking competitive level, man. I was playing junior B. I mean, I was watching guys like Bobby Ryan and JVR and Johnny G's a little younger than me, but his dad coached like not far from where I was at in Hollydale, Coach Gee. Flyers should have got Johnny Gaudreau. I'm still so pissed about that, but we don't have to get into that. Um, you know, 3 years of my life, and then I said, "All right, I won't. No more. Juniors are done." And I jumped into a men's league, and I
Tell me
rocked.
about that. Like, if it, tell me about the concussion. So you get that sort of hit.
Yeah.
Same thing. You don't know where you're at. Like you did throw on your tie to tie your shoes again. So like, what was it like? Did you wake up, and then what were the symptoms? How long did that last? That sort of thing.
I'll definitely tell you, but I have to. As I mentioned, I got to do the plug. The first podcast I watched of yours, Matty Burke, was the one where you had a gentleman on that played hockey.
Yeah.
Can't recall his name, please. If you
Mark Burke.
Mark Burke. Um, his story was the damn near same exact thing. Brought me to tears. If he ever listens to your show, you are an inspiration, my friend. Hopefully he listens. I know exactly what he went through, and it's the same thing. Like he said, he was out for about 20 minutes, and like you said, it was essentially like coming back to the locker room, break, and then going back, and then he finally started coming back to it, and he didn't realize what was up, and that's essentially what it is. Like I was out, I was out. I get bad, like so I have like I always have to think about it. PCS, like post concussion syndrome. I get really bad tunnel vision now, and I work off two computers, so like all of a sudden, um, like it would start to get blur, like little blur spots. Like you'll see the little blur spots, and then this will start to like go, okay, and then I break out into a migraine. Um, that's never happened until after that. Um, I don't get too confused as much anymore, but first couple years I did. Migraines are still there. I actually get a little wobbly in the leg sometimes too. I don't know if that's affected like my like affected that, but like I do get a little wobbly in the leg sometimes. But I do a lot of running to kind of train with that. Um, but yeah, man, it was I never thought I was gonna play again, and I played such I got to play for a long time afterwards, man. I just retired in 18. I got to play at Lincoln Financial Field where the Philadelphia Eagles play. Flyers played the Penguins. I got to play 2 days after that, and I retired. I got to still have a pretty decent career playing men's league, competitive, but nothing like, big time like where I was. But I'm grateful for the opportunity. I'm grateful to still be here. But 3 years of hell, of hell. And I do believe that that may have been a starting point of like not like depression. I mean, not depression, but like depression as like an adult. Like I could take my fucking life if I want to. I'm not a child, like anger, confusion, resentment. I don't need no help. Like all that starts to settle in, and then frustration, tears, bipolar. It wasn't long after that I was diagnosed with manic depression, bipolar one. You know, mood swings. I feel like that a lot of that had to come with it. Um, it was rough. It was rough. I listened to that podcast that you did. It was incredible. You did an incredible job hosting, and the vulnerability on him. I felt it. I cried, man, because I knew exactly what he went through. And he's an inspiration. Incredible soul. We love this game, and he'll probably still tell you right now it damaged him. It damaged me, but damn, do I love this game. And I get
Yeah.
to, and I get to
Yeah.
still be a part of it. I get to
Mhm.
still be a part of it, and that's one of the reasons why I would talk to him. I'm not sure, what he's up to, but I would love for him if he's ever any interested. I would love, talk to him and maybe see if he still wants to be a part of the game as a journalist. Um, the stories are great. The game is great. I love the game. Um, and I still got to make a life out of it.
Yeah.
Just more safe now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I had a similar experience with football. I'm actually going to coach tonight, coach kids. Season starts now. And
Oh, do your coach thing, huh?
yeah,
I always want to coach hockey. I haven't coached hockey. Yeah, nice, man. What age group are you coaching?
I'm coaching like U12s. I'm going down to the younger kids. Um,
Okay.
but I coached high school before. I went back and I
Oh,
helped out
very
coach
nice.
at high school. I coached like men, the older like seniors, so it's like men's. They do that in the summer. I coached that before, and I just coached. I just finished coaching like a flag team a few months ago. But
Okay, cool. How long was your football career? If you don't mind me asking, tell me maybe a couple sports guys here. Tell me a little bit about like your football career, if you don't mind.
yeah, yeah. So I played high
How long did you
school
play for?
3 years. I played for 5 years. Wasn't anything crazy. I guess maybe 5 or 6. But I like made it to college, like college here. It's nothing crazy, especially compared to the States. But worked my way up to being like a
College
starter.
ball is college ball, man. College ball is college ball. Take it from me, seriously.
Yeah. Worked my way up to being a starter. Was really good. Last practice before the first game um, was just a run through, offensive run through, which means like the defense is just there just to do nothing. And this
Yeah,
guy
for
just comes in to prove a point, I guess, and just steamrolled me. Like I was just breaking down blocking. He just like led with his head, probably like 220 pounds, like full on sprint, and just like um, hit me with kind of his helmet, like helmet to helmet. And it was like one of the last plays of this run through practice before like the first game of the season. And I'm like starting all fired up. And yeah, I was just done. I just remember like it hit me and I popped right back up. Like I just felt fucked. I was probably like half out for a bit, got right back up. Um, and then I
the
couldn't
man
sleep.
in you had to step up because you're around your teammates and your
Yeah.
guys. Like I got to get back up and be tough, and that kind of relates to back to what we were saying.
Yeah.
You have to show your toughness. But continue on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. But and then I was kind of all right, but then I was couldn't sleep that night. That was a big thing I've noticed because I got a few since then, which has been not so good, but uh couldn't sleep that night, and then I was just fucked the next day. Um, and then my head was fucked, couldn't see like sensitivity to light. I'm sure you've been there,
Oh God,
and
yeah.
deep depression. I remember going to class. There's multiple parking lots, but there is in every fucking college. I would leave at the end of the day, barely get through the day, have no idea where I parked. Um, and just stuff like that all the time. Like math got really hard, and that lasted like quite a while. And then by the end of that season, I ended up going back because I went through the whole protocol bullshit. And
Yeah.
like I kind of knew that I was
I'm
like,
surprised there was a protocol then, dude.
yeah, yeah, this
Seriously,
was like 2015. So it was just like just starting to put that in.
start.
But I go back and I just took like I remember I was running a route. I went through the whole process, gave somebody a little head fake and like went on the inside, and they just like clipped their helmet to my helmet as I was running past them, and that was it. And then it was the same. It was as soon as it happened, I'm like same thing. It was like barely even a hit to the head, and exact
When you
same thing.
know,
Couldn't sleep that night, and then that one was worse. That one was like it went. I went in deeper, and then that just lasted a long time.
that's when you know, man. Something so small like that, like realistically, and I am not a doctor, no diagnosis, but like having those concussions, and this is just like based off of relatability. Dude, one more. Who fucking knows what would have happened? Same here. If I would have came back that year, if I didn't take as much time off as I did, fucking wouldn't be here probably, dude. Who knows? Who knows where we would be? It's bittersweet and it's damn hard to walk away from something you love doing. But
Like
there's
personality changes and everything. Like if you, I, what the thing that fucked me up the most, and this, Mark could relate to this a lot, was like, you just feel like you're gonna, like, you don't know if you're gonna get yourself back. And that
yeah.
sounds weird as fuck for someone that never had a concussion, but you don't know if you're gonna get your personality back because it goes, because your brain is swelled up and you're
Oh
depressed and
yeah.
you don't feel like yourself. And every little thing that you do and you take for granted in the day, we're like, I just wake up, I feel myself, I have a personality, I talk to people, I feel good. Like that's all gone, man. It's like I don't know if I'll ever be the same person again.
It's scary to think about, isn't it?
It's terrifying.
Terrifying. It's terrifying. It's like, yeah, I mean, you could, yeah, it's terrifying. Like, we get up and like work and get to do our podcasts, and then there's people out there that essentially we've probably even been through for a period of time when we got hurt. Like, people are waking up, podcast, doing their life, and it's like, oh man, got up today. Like my eyes aren't killing me. I kind of feel okay. I feel like I can probably tell a joke or two or fucking tie my shoes. Like that was just like, and then rely on people. And it's almost feel like I felt like that had a big impact on relationships as well because I had to rely on people and it became so like normal for me. I don't, like I said, I don't change anything I have ever done in life, and I don't, I got hurt and I got hit, and it happened for a reason. Um, you know, I don't know what that reason was, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to still be able to play. I'm grateful to be able to cover a team that I love and to cover a sport that I love. And just like you, man, like now we're not playing, but we are helping kids. Like you're not just coach, man. So some of those kids, and take it from me, I was a preschool teacher. So I relate this. You're not just coach. Some of those kids, man, you could be dad. Like they look at
Mm.
you as like a male role model and a father figure. You're their role model. So it's not just coach and breakdowns. It's realistically, there's going to be side conversations about life. They're going to come to you and be like, man, I wonder why they asked me that. Want to know why? Because you're the number one most important man in that child's life, even when they go home. I
Yeah.
had two kids like that that I taught um, young age brothers where there's a certain situation where mom had slept with somebody who, back to our old story, who didn't have their own time anymore. And then out came the two boys, and I love those damn boys, man. I would told them I was like, I'd babysit them anytime. I got the opportunity to. Took them to see Toy Story 3, Chuck E. Cheese, the whole nine. And eventually that was kind of my departure almost out of teaching because it got very personal for me.
Yeah.
And and I not in a bad way. I just wanted to protect because I saw the neglect of what was going on with these kids and in my own personal life. And then one day, they up and moved, and it hurt so bad. I didn't get to say goodbye. It hurt so bad, but I knew where they were running from.
Yeah.
Um, it's so funny because like little Darian, he used to say I was Buzz and he was Woody. I'll never forget that, man. He used to tell his dad I was gonna beat him up. I believe it or not, I fucking would have too. Um, but like that's why I got out of it, man. It's one of the reasons why I got out of it. 6 7 years I was a teacher, one in the school district, and I was like, it's too personal for me. It's too personal. It's become too personal. And then, not gonna dive too much into it. And then that Gabriel Fernandez case came out, the show on Netflix. Are you familiar or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Dude, that got to me big. I fucking applied for DIFUS right after the fucking movie, right after the show ended. Like that shit's real. I've seen that shit. Like not to that extent, but I've seen that shit. Like kids coming in with like the diaper that they were sent home in, just like neglect, and I'm just like, something gonna be done about this. And then it was like, I'll fucking take care of it myself. And then I was
Mm.
like, I can't do this because I'm going to end up fucking destroying somebody. And like I said, at Seven Sisters, I tried did MMA for 3 years. Bet your ass, dude, I was taking someone down. Um, it got very personal for me, so I had to get out of it. So I fucking became a bartender and fucking did a bunch of blow and then stopped that and then got in the legal field and now I'm fucking talking to your ass.
Woo! I like it.
Woo! I'd be like your coffee. Like it's fucking 9 o'clock at night. What do you mean coffee? Yeah, you know what I mean.
I was talking to somebody one time, a counselor, and they were saying something that stuck with me about that. It was like someone that's been through a childhood trauma themselves will have a very serious hard time seeing that in other kids, seeing kids go through that.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah. And you know what? It was never like my as a child. I didn't have, at least I don't remember, like neglect as like a child. 10, 11, yeah, I can remember back that far. But like these kids were like fucking 3, dude, like
Yeah.
4. I was
Yeah.
kindergarten teacher. Like that's where it's like, and people. I'm not gonna dive too much into it. That's the shit that that's the shit that breeds and borns these people going out there and fucking shooting people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to dive too much into it because it's just not my topic of discussion, and I'm not going to even go
Right.
nowhere near political shit. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that shit is real, like neglect and wanting love and affection and attention, because now they start going towards your animals, blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera. We'll add that there. All your audience and yourself obviously see where I'm getting at, but like it's real. And once again, topic of discussion, mental health is real. Like these are all factors of everything that we've covered today. The hockey, concussions, family affection, um, jobs, everything. It does play a part. It really does. That's why it's so important.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think like what we talked about a little bit before we hopped on the podcast was like sort of like dark psychology. And
Shadow work, yeah.
I
More
think
or less.
yeah, I think like it's good for everyone to understand that like humans are very, very like vulnerable things that need a lot of, basically when it boils down to it, need a lot of connection and need a lot of different things to be able to grow and be a healthy human. And I've kind of been listening to some of this like shadow work stuff and like the dark psychology, and it's like to understand like people that do terrible things are no different than you. They've just went down a terribly dark path, right? So it's
Yeah,
like understanding that you are just as capable of something terrible as someone else who does something terrible, because you're a human being.
exactly. And that's exactly what it is. Anybody's capable of doing anything. Like, some people say, I just don't think I'm capable of, you want to know something? I've been I wear like my heart on my sleeve. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. People have betrayed me so much, and I'm talking about like tried to ruin my family, like relationships, my job, just awful things. And of course, they're all females. Pick the winners. Um, and I've never knew how to. It's like I imagine it in my mind, and I have a plan, blah blah blah. But I just like whatever, man. I'm just I want this all to end is retaliation.
Yeah.
I've never been able to retaliate. It's real. It's just not in me. And one, I think for two reasons, main reasons. One, I just don't have it in me to do it. And two, I'm afraid to do it because if I do it, I don't know what the fuck I'll do. And I'm not saying in a physical way. Like I retaliate. Like okay, I'm gonna get you back, dude. Like, and it's not. And the connections that I have, and people just think podcast for podcast. You can do a lot of exposure on these fucking things. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna turn this fan off here. It's getting cold. Now I'm getting all angry, cold blooded. Now I'm getting ready to retaliate.
Getting
But
fired up here.
fired up, brother.
The war
But
room.
but retaliation is just something that I've never been able to do, and I'm actually going through like currently. Like I have people that like, my God, they'll post on like my on my like business page like Frankie sucks dick. I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, that's exactly what my my people who I want to do photography work for is that I suck dick. That's just great. Not true. First of all the ladies out there, um, all the Nova Scotians out there, um, but yeah, like I mean, like just dumb shit like that. Like he's a terrible person. Why am I a terrible person? Because I decided that I didn't want to be with you. Well, yeah. Uh, okay, like, so what does this mean? You're supposed to be with me. Well, I don't want to. Wow. Okay, well then you know what, dude? Just talk bad about me. Then I put my number on the fucking back of a bathroom and say call for a good time. I don't know what to tell you. And then my phone will stop ringing. Disclosure that's actually never happened before. You know what? Who knows? Actually, I bet it fucking has. Got a picture of Gonzo on there. Call for a good time.
um, right. I think that's interesting what you said about being scared too. You know, was listening to I don't know if you probably everyone knows Jordan Peterson. He did this biblical series and it's a lot of like philosophical stuff. One of the stories in there was about like
I think he was on Joe Rogan before actually.
yeah, one of the stories in there it breaks down like it's just a bunch of philosophical stories. But anyway, it breaks down like the story of kind of this thought process. I'm getting kind of deep here, but like you can just like testing the theory of like nothing matters and I can just go kill somebody. It doesn't matter. Right. And now this is just like philosophical, like, and this is like a story. I think it's in the Bible or something. But what he went and killed somebody, and what he realized after he killed somebody was that he wasn't the same man after as he was before.
Couldn't expect him to be. And if he was, well, then we got a potential serial killer on our hands.
Yeah, yeah. But it just made me think of that with scared to retaliate. It's like becoming the version of you that retaliates.
Yeah, even being trained and learn knowing how to defend myself, and essentially the reason why I did that was because one, self-discipline, and two, because I have seven sisters. I got no. There's only certain situations, and I always try to de-escalate situations. People would never know that I even trained if I didn't tell them because I'm just a big cuddly bear. But I de-escalate situations with what I'm good with, and that's talking. So there's no reason just to drop the gloves. Like, sure, when it's like, okay, this ain't gonna work. This is getting worse. We're gonna probably have to do a little self defense here. But there's certain situations where there is no talking, and that's when you fuck with my sisters or who the person I'm with. And not to say names because it's family. One of my sisters has a baby's father who is grade A fucking piece of shit. Got a little smart mouth. And I already had a fucking problem with him. I already didn't like him. I already had like a little altercation where I was a little fun story. I was downstairs in the basement and I had a little lady with me. Didn't remember her name the next day, but I had a little lady with me. And he comes through the basement where the bar is. I'm like, yo, dude, you wanna go upstairs? And he's sitting there drinking. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get him the fuck upstairs right now. And I'm like, okay, come on, I'll help you up. I'll walk you out. And then he tries to get a little strong arm, dude. I grabbed him, arm around the head, and just walked him up and went back downstairs. And I was like, now I'm angry. Not bad for her. Moving on. So we were on vacation, and he just said the fucking wrong thing, man. And I fucking threw two nice buttes right to the back of the leg. Threw two. I was like, I love a good kick, dude. And I'm trained to do it. Threw two, leg went out, popped them down, and then just two shots right to the orbital bone. Done. Boom. Broke. And like it goes back to what you were saying about like feeling different. Like if I didn't, then it's like, well, I mean, realistically, I probably shouldn't. I probably should like, I don't feel bad. I felt bad. And I think that was like one of the retaliation things. Like I felt bad because one, looking around, I know that shit fucking hurt. His orbital bone broke. And two, um, I didn't really like that, man. Like I did it. I'm not like I don't walk around like tough guy. I mean, it's not really who I am. I know how to like defend myself, and I feel like a lot of people, everybody should, in one way or another. But I don't go looking for the fight. But that's my sister, man, and and apologies were made, and you know then it happened again. I almost threw him over a balcony, but we don't have to get into that one. And then we were done. We were done. Then I think we called it quits after that. Um, but it goes back to like saying what you were just saying with like if you don't feel different, like some people maybe have that effect where like you don't feel bad. But even as a bastard as he is and still is, like I had that. I felt different afterwards. Like I felt bad. I did, kind of, a little bit. I felt bad a little bit.
What are you doing now? Tell the people what you're doing now. All the things you're
Oh,
doing now.
besides having a one of the best conversations I've ever had in my entire life, Manny Burke. Besides doing that, my friend, I am stepped away from law to pursue the dream, and I've been hired as the manager for FlyersInsider.com website, one of the biggest Flyers websites around. I'm a journalist also with them, covering the team and some NHL. I had the opportunity to shoot photos with the Flyers last season, so I was able to start my photography business. Still love shooting photos, so obviously I'm doing that. And then I also always keeping up my volunteer stuff, obviously with that, my hotline. And then I am the founder of Unity Podcast Network, where we have 10 different podcasts on the network. I have the show Frank the Tank Show, been running 5 years strong, incredible show, sports show. And then I also am the co-host of the My Crazy Exes podcast, which is a damn good show.
Uh-oh.
Lots the My Crazy Exes podcast is phenomenal. We talk about mental health, sex, relationships, sobriety, um, BDSM, just all types of good topics. Um, Special little shout out to my co-host who's actually stepped away for mental health reasons, Sunshine. She'll be back soon, but she's dealing with some stuff. We're doing some guest hosts in the meantime. Can't wait for her to come back for the big grand finale episode, which I'll break actually on her show. But yeah, I'm doing a lot of that, man. I'm doing the podcast thing, social media, working, doing a lot of that good stuff. But the season finale of the My Crazy Exes, obviously you hear the name My Crazy Exes. Well, we haven't talked about any exes. So what we're gonna try and do is a 2 week part probably is my co-host is gonna have a list of names. She's gonna reach out to them and invite them on. And I'm gonna sit in the waiting room on StreamYard. I brought you in StreamYard, you know what it looks like. And we are gonna have the exes come on the show face to face,
No way.
mano e mano. You never know who's going to walk
Oh.
through that door. I'll make sure that you get the link for that one, my friend. Tune in and comment in, and we're going to have live reaction all over the place. So, yeah, My Crazy Exes podcast. Make sure you follow that one. That's going to be a good one. And of course, sports, the Frank the Tank Show is another good one as well.
Oh man, that's gonna be everyone's gotta go
Dude,
check that out. That sounds awesome.
it's
That
going to
sounds
be wild.
wild.
Like I said,
Crazy.
all about the content. I'll do it. Let's do it. Watch. I'm gonna sit there. It's gonna be like a good conversation. Like, oh, I mean, that was a good one. The next thing you know, somebody pops on. I'm like, oh my fucking god! I thought you died.
Yeah, just start talking about your dick size and stuff. Here's the thing, Frankie.
Yeah. I thought it was good. Yeah, when it worked. Well, I was doing blow when I was with you. What the fuck am I gonna tell you? We weren't even together. I was like, well, it was somebody else then.
So, I guess over the last 2 years or so, or a year and a half, it sounds like it's been a big transformation for you. You're doing all these things that sounds like you can tell you love them. Um, what has been what's been the biggest help for your mental health and yeah, what was the journey like just going out and doing things that you really love?
The biggest help for my mental health is what we're doing right now, my friend. And I'm not
Talking.
even bullshitting. Not even bullshitting. Being able to tell the story, being able to tell the journey, relating to people fucking in a different country, having some of the best conversations I've had, having a conversation with a gent that I've just fucking popped up and I've reached out. I believe everything happens for a reason. I really do, and
Yeah.
similar stories and having a damn good conversation about a damn good topic, an important topic, And people are listening right now, and people are going to reach out. People are going to become vulnerable, and they're going to seek help and seek guidance. And and essentially it'll probably be one of us that they reach out to. That's what keeps it going. Because I know what that person's going through. You know what that person's going through. That's what gets me through. That's the biggest payoff is being able to help people. Um, yeah, that's one of my biggest things. Therapy obviously is helping for the individual, but helping people along the way. Paying it forward. That's probably the biggest thing. Occasional upsy downsy too. From a lady, that's always nice as well.
Good upsy downsy.
Upsy downsy.
One of my coaches, um, I'll never forget this. He said, "The gift is to the giver."
Oh man, that's incredible. I have an incredible lyric too. That's a very relatable. That's perfectly said. Um, oh man, it's off the top of my head. Yeah, you took me back a little bit with that one. That was a good one. Um, oh, what is it? No, it's going. Oh, when you give, you begin to live. And
Mm,
that's Dave Matthews. Dave Matthews
mm,
band. Yeah, there's that one. There's turns out not where you are, but who you're with that really matters.
mm.
The best of what's around from Dave Matthews. My favorite band of all time.
Yeah.
But his lyrics and the power of music is, oh man, it's got me. You know what? I will add that in there as well. The helping people, the power of music. I love music, man, and especially doing photography for bands. Like, not everybody's a Dave Matthews fan. Realistically, you hate him or you love him. Trust me, I know. I've been a Dave Matthews fan for a long time. But lyrically, his music has got me through some of the toughest times in my life. Just little quotes, like I said, man. If kindness is your king, then heaven will be yours before you reach your end. Another quote, another lyric from him. Incredible, incredible. Like he's one of those bands that's incredible. And then I have, Pearl Jam, another one of my favorite bands. Release, God, man, that song was so deep inside. Stained, Epiphany. That song, I don't know if you've ever heard that or your audience has. Please listen to Stained Epiphany. Go back and listen to that song and look at the lyrics. Dude, I cry listening to that song. I know every word to it. I sing on karaoke sometimes. That hits me so hard. Matty Berg, seriously, go listen to that song, man. You will feel it. You will feel it. It's oh man, and I'll tell you what that song means after you listen to it. Um, yeah, man, it's power of music, helping people along the way. Um, maybe a good porno along the way as well. Those are the things that get me by. Maybe a bucket of chicken too. I do like chicken.
Dude, thank you so much.
Conversation with you, my friend. That's what it's all about. I couldn't be more thankful for you to have me on here today, my friend.
Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for sharing. Um, really appreciate it. Really appreciate you reaching out. Your character. Everybody go check out Frankie's stuff, all the things he's doing. So where can people find you?
God, I find me everywhere. You probably find me on TV at this point. If you look real close, you'll see me as a photographer.
Pornhub
So
or no, I'm just kidding.
yeah. Right. Spice one, Spice two, guys. Soft. We might see a nipple at one point before 7 a.m. Eastern time, not that other stuff. So you can find me my Facebook, Frankie James, simple right there. My name. You'll see a picture of me, probably doing something stupid, but you'll see a lot of flyer stuff. So Frankie James. I'm also on Twitter at Frankie's Desk. My first name STSK at Frankie's Desk. That's my Twitter handle. Um, my podcast, The Frank the Tank Show. Give that a follow. Also, my Crazy Exes podcast. Gotta give that a follow. We're on Spotify, all that good stuff. And we also do it live. Every show is live. So follow the Facebooks or the YouTube page, Unity Podcast Network. That will work best too, because then you get to watch everything. And you can find me on other side of the hotline, man. Just ready to help people. And if you don't feel like waiting to call that, 215-626-8103. My personal phone number. Call me. Call me anytime. Call me. Call me. Call
Oh,
me.
it's
There you
beautiful,
go.
man.
That's where you can find it,
Appreciate
my
it.
friend.
I'm gonna plug all that stuff down below. Check out Frankie. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. I'm sure we'll be
Matty
in
Berg,
touch.
I appreciate you. Yes, we will. And like I said some time ago, I will be bringing my ass to the town of Nova Scotia, and we will do this show in person. You have my word.
All right, dude. We'll do 1v1 in hockey, and
I
I'll
love the
break your
one v
ankles.
one. 1v1. You and my 9-year-old stepson used to say that. So there's
yeah, 1v1. All right. See you later, buddy.
thank you, my brother.